So I introduced Steve. I'm going to get better at this as the day goes on. Larosiliere from New York, and the organization Stoked.
Hello everybody, how's everybody doing? Don't fall asleep after lunch. I'll do my best to be motivated and inspiring for you. So I told the last group that this is my second time in Copenhagen. The last time I was here was 16 years ago. So I'm assuming 16 years ago Copenhagen was not the same as it is today, right? No? It's very different, okay. So anyway, I had a great and amazing time in the city. Lots of fond memories, and it was fun. I'm glad to be back here. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to talk about a community empowerment through sport. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to this point in my life and career. And I'm going to talk about my organization and the work that we do and the problem that we're solving in the world. And hopefully inspire you to take some lessons that I've learned and some inspiration from my work so that you can apply it to what you do. So just a show of hands as to who's in the room. So anybody from like a club group that works with sport and young people? Anybody? No? Yeah, okay. Sort of. Anybody from like they call it a commune, right? Municipality, right? 1, 2, okay. And then the rest of you are just lazy. You don't do anything. University. Social workers. Okay, great. And one person leaving. Oh, 2 people leaving. Okay, good. Cool. So that's me on top of a mountain. That's in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's the happiest place that you'll ever see me, aside from being with my family. And there's a quote that I live by, and it's 9 to 5 is how you survive. I ain't trying to survive. I'm trying to live it to the limit and love it alive. And anytime you have the chance to quote Jay-Z in a presentation in Copenhagen, I feel like you should say it, right? So, but the quote is kind of how I like to do my best to live life in the work that I do, especially with young people. I think with young people, we always want them to think out of the box and not accept life for the way it we as adults, we want to live as normal, live as life as possible, and we've been given a lot of chances and opportunities in our own life. When it comes to work with young people, we always like to say, come on, you guys have much more than we have. Like, why don't you just sort of grab life by the head and just and go for it? And so I feel like in my work, that's what I would want and I aspire to give to kids. It's like, all right, 9 to 5 is the bare minimum. Let's not do the bare minimum. Let's just go big. Let's go as big as possible for our lives. So for me, it's like when I look at actually, I'll go back here and just tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in New York. My family is they immigrated from Haiti. It's in the Caribbean. And so I grew up lower middle class. My family didn't have a lot of money at times, but I was given a lot of chances and opportunities. I had sports to play after school. I had, family that I could go and visit, and I had, people like priests and teachers and just like a big community of people around me and role models that ensured that they saw potential in me. They worked to bring those out in me so that I could, eventually be standing in front of you telling you about my life. And so I feel very fortunate. And so early in my career after college, so I ended up going to college. I ended up getting my master's degree in nonprofit management. But after college, I had gotten a job and I was doing marketing, and I eventually started my own marketing firm. And I became after a couple years of doing that successfully, I became very disillusioned and sort of jaded by the idea of having a job in which it didn't give back. I was almost like a consumer of society. And I read this book, and it was called No More Prisons. And the book talked about community empowerment, it talked about self-education, and it talked about this thing called mentoring. And everybody knows what mentoring is, right? And mentoring to me was honestly, the author of the book had like 20 mentors, right? And he was a young person, and I was just really inspired by his book because he took chances in life, and part of his life was interacting with young people, and whether it was dancing and hip hop or graffiti and sports like skateboarding, like he created things with young people. And so he kind of lived to create and mentor kids, and then he himself got mentored himself, and I was just really inspired by that. But I was really struck by the idea of mentoring. And so what I did was I called the most successful person that I knew, and I asked him to be my mentor, and he said, "What's that?" And then I said, "I want to have dinner once a month with you, and I want to talk about life." And then I went and I actually started mentoring with an organization in New York, and and so I started mentoring children in foster care. And so I had one mentee, and then I had a bunch of other kids that I was mentoring. And we do normal things, whether it was just sit at a table and work on homework or play board games and maybe play some basketball and go to movies. But I just kind of knew that there was something more out there that in order for me to connect with them. Because society, education system, they give us a certain set of rules on how we should interact with young people. And it kind of looks like this, right? It looks like in the traditional sports, and even after school programs and tutoring programs and mentoring programs. But I knew that the kids that I was working with, I wanted to, in the traditional mentoring world, they say that it takes about a year to develop a good relationship with a young person. And with young people, they don't have that attention span. And so for me, I was looking for a way to teach them skills in a very fast time. And so I remember being on a mountain, similar to this. I was in Whistler, British Columbia, and I was standing on top of a mountain, and I was in a time in my place in my life where I knew that I wanted to do something bigger, right? And I knew that I wanted to sort of break out of the 9 to 5, and I was looking at the beautiful mountains, and I said, wouldn't it be great if wouldn't it be great if my mentee was here? My mentee who was in foster care. And then the next thought was, I should start a snowboard mentoring program. That's now normally what people think, right? And so I knew that I wanted to not do this sort of things with him. I wanted to sort of I wanted him to think and dream big, because for me, as a snowboarder, I was constantly learning things. And even as a skateboarder growing up, like I was constantly learning things about myself. And I knew that like there were things that I was learning about myself that I wasn't doing, in normal sports and for young people, young people need to feel like they are like being self-expressive and creative and feel like they're part of something else. And so that idea of being able to start a snowboard mentoring program was really, what I was no different than the pioneers of snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing culture, right? And so the culture of skateboarding came out of surfing, right? Surfing came out of Hawaii and and the Hawaiians using big planks of wood and to ride waves. In California, skateboarders, when the waves were flat, they just took pieces of wood and started going down hills, right? They made it themselves. The pioneers of surfers, of snowboarding, like they created things themselves because they saw and needed it, right? And even, the movie Endless Summer? You've heard of it? No? You've heard of it, right? So Endless Summer is a classic surf movie, and it's these these two young men travel around the world on the search for waves. So they ended up in like all over the world, even in like Africa, surfing. They were like the first people to surf there. And it's like this constant quest of adventure and fulfillment and creativity. It's like, that sounds like the type of thing that young people want to do. Why do you think young people are so attracted to social media, right? Why do you think they're on Instagram and Facebook? And like, there's something of the reason why Instagram is so popular is because you can take a picture and you can add a filter to it, and maybe you can add 2-3 filters to it, and then maybe you can add, another app to it to make it look cool. It's because we're trying to be creative. We all want to feel like we're part of a community. Why do you think there's a feeling of people, there's like a rush of endorphins when people click a like button, right? Like there's something to that. And so for me, I knew before, Facebook and Instagram, like that's what kids wanted. They want to feel like they're connected. They want to feel creative. They want to feel like unlimited potential. And for me, it came through, through board sports. It came through snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing. And while I was doing that, and throughout the years, sort of operating in this mindset that like, I know snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing are good for young people, I sort of stumbled upon this notion of the opportunity gap. Right? So the opportunity gap is the difference in life trajectory, and we've all seen opportunity and what it can do for young people, and maybe even for ourselves. There are opportunities in which you can get a new job, or you can find a new relationship, right? And sometimes we know people that haven't had those opportunities, right? It's that gap in between, right? And for young people, especially young people of like underprivileged backgrounds versus kids with privileged backgrounds, it comes up in a myriad of ways. So it's like education, what kind of schooling young people went to, it's experiences. Some kids never leave, Brooklyn or New York. Some kids never leave Copenhagen, right? Some kids never get the chance to experience, going to, other parts of Europe. And so those experiences add to our life, right? Relationships, I don't know if this expression holds true here, but it may resonate this idea of it's not what you know, it's who you know. Do you have that expression here? All right. So, yeah, it's relationships, right? And sometimes we know certain people that can get us certain things, and sometimes we don't, right? And it's that gap in between. And advantages. There's the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. You ever heard of that book? My God, it's an amazing book. If you have the chance to read it. And it talks about the whole notion of success. And it specifically talks about this. Depending on, at least where I'm from, your geography, where you live, determines your destiny. And that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And so that's what opportunity is. And so with this gap, for me, the biggest drivers of this opportunity is that, at least in the United States, and this could hold true for your community or whatever, the things that motivate me are like, this poverty's high for young people in the United States, right? Like, you guys are ranked higher than the United States. Like, the United States has second highest child poverty in the world. Like, we're between Bulgaria and Romania. Like, in the United States, that's bad. The other thing is that there's a 6,000 hour gap between middle class and low income people. So they've actually quantified this. So there's the time that young people spend in the classroom. That comes up to, X amount of hours. And then there's this stuff that happens outside of the classroom, right? So that's after school programs, soccer, tennis, museums, family vacations, right? Like the zoo, like all of those things, right? Tivoli Gardens, right? Like all of those things, they all matter. We know this. All of those things matter. And so there's about 6,000 hours between what middle class kids and low income kids, right? So it goes back to those experiences, advantages, opportunities, right? And then the last thing is that there's a global unemployment, youth unemployment. Like young people don't have the skills and they don't have the opportunity to gain that first job, that first, bit of confidence in their life. Who remembers their first job, right? Their first job. Just curious, how did you get your first job?
Me?
Yeah.
I was too young to have paperwork myself, so my mom got one in her name that me and my brother could go to Streetkulturen. My brother was too young as well.
Yeah.
I was 7. My brother was 10.
Okay.
He had to be 12 to do everything.
That's awesome. And then what was your first job?
My first job was as a boy who was in the clothing factory.
How did you get that job?
Because one of the older guys on the street had this job and he was getting told. And then he asked me, and then I got it.
Great. Did you have a...
Yes, I'm trying to remember. I think I got a job in a shop selling minerals, these stones that's supposed to have.
How did you get that job?
Also, because I knew somebody who could get me a job. So.
Do you see the point is that like people that don't have those, the people that don't know certain things, whether like my mother helped me get my first job in a supermarket, right? Like those, so it's basically comes down to like opportunities, advantage in who you know, but those things I feel like should be equalized. And so I'll tell you how I equalize those opportunities for young people. So anyway, that's a little aside. So the big theory of change truly is that we use snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing, and I'll just use skateboarding as an example, right? So like you have skateboarding, you see a skateboarder, they can do it, they can attempt a trick 100 times. They land 99 times, they land that one time. That one time truly is enough to try that trick or do that trick another 1,000 times because they landed it that one time, right? And if you watch a kid over and over and over and over and over do this trick, you know, and they're unsuccessful 99% of the time, that does something to a young person. And it's called resilience. They're a lot more, they're able to bounce back from things faster. They're more self-reliant and they're more community-minded. So we use skateboarding as an example. We use skateboarding to make sure that young people are strong, self-reliant, confident people. That's the baseline, right? And if you combine that with a community of people so that they feel like they're part of something bigger, that gives any kid of any socioeconomic status enough confidence to just walk into a room. That's baseline. And then on the other hand, we have programs in schools which give kids the experiences so that they can, critically think, collaborate, work well with others. We have this thing called FIES, F-I-E-S, right? This is one of the first things that we teach kids in our program. It stands for firm handshake, introduce yourself, eye contact, and smile. Who teaches us those things? Probably our parents, maybe. But what do you do with kids that don't have those role models, right? And so within that, like kids, we show up at a skate park and they FIES each other, we give kids, we build a framework in which kids, we circle up and I'll tell you more about that, but like we circle up, our students have the opportunity to do public speaking 20 times throughout the year to a group no less than 40 people, right? And these are people all different backgrounds. And so the research says that in order to close the opportunity gap, you need human capital, skills, you need social capital, these are relationships, and you need enrichment, or which is cultural capital, right? So cultural capital, for those that don't know, does everybody know what cultural capital is? Right? Essentially, it's basically the feeling of walking into a room and knowing that you belong, right? That's a great feeling, isn't it? No matter where you are, you feel like you belong. And that will carry on wherever. So like, I mean, for kids where I grew up that had never been to Europe, let alone traveled outside of their city, the whole notion of going to a different country and sort of navigating, that's foreign to people. But you know what? Through sports, you can do that. Sports is like the equalizer, especially something like skateboarding. Because skateboarding changes your whole perspective. So what we do is we do youth development, we do mentoring, career exposure and education. So like the career part is really interesting too. And I would venture to say that like a country, I don't want to make any grand claims, but anyway, I feel like if you don't have young people feel like the point of all of this is to like feel and be in a career that you absolutely love, and you take the skills that you learned from sports and carry it over into your career, like athletes are the ones that end up being the most successful in their career because they know how to like collaborate and do teamwork and problem solve. And so I feel like by having a career mind to your sports and at least letting people know what kind of career you can end up having, it doesn't have to be sports related, it'll give you more focus in your education, right? So you're not wasting time. So some of our results is that we've worked with 3,500 young people, we have a 100% high school graduation rate, and we provide an additional 41% of enrichment. So this year, we provide about 700 hours of programming, and our programming is 4 years. Next year, we're going to 7 years of programming. So remember that 6,000 hours, we're getting close to at least 1,000 hours of programming so that we can close that gap for young people. So our mission is to promote personal development, academic achievement, and healthy living. So the idea is that we take kids out of their neighborhoods, out of their context, surround them with positive role models. We give them the opportunity to think and dream big and to almost play in an environment which isn't normally theirs. And you don't have to take a kid to the mountains in order to do this. You can do this within your own city. It all depends on how you set it up. We believe that like a counterculture, a subculture like skateboarding, or even it can happen with hip hop dance, or it can happen with graffiti. Somebody in the previous said, can you do this with like tennis? Like, yes, you can do it with tennis, or you can do it with any traditional sport. It's like you focus on the lifestyle and the culture aspect, not just the sport, just the lifestyle behind it and the culture, so that young people know that it's a way of being, it's a way of living, and that there's something big, that they're attached to a bigger community out there. At least for us, for me, when I think back to when I first started, it was about seeing a different perspective. I wanted my mentee to know that there was something out there other than what his life was giving him, right? And so think about the first time that you saw something like amazing. I don't know, like who's been to Paris, right? Like first time you stood in front of the Eiffel Tower, right? Like something different, right? Or like, I don't know, first time for me, I surfed like a wave bigger than 6 feet. That was huge for me, right? Like I learned a lot about myself in a short period of time. And so action sports and sports in general can teach young people to be receptive to new ideas, new people, new environments. Something like skateboarding, you'll never look at a hill on a street the same. You'll never look at a sidewalk the same. Never you'll look at a sidewalk the same. You'll never look at a rail on a stairs the same. You'll never look at stairs the same. Like 5 stairs or even 3 stairs those aren't just stairs for you to walk up. Those are stairs for you to be your best or to do that trick that you've always wanted to do. We operate from a sense of values. So Stoked When you say I'm stoked, it means that you're pumped up, you're motivated, you're enthusiastic. For us, it stands for success, teamwork, openness, kudos, energy, and determination. And so we came up with that because a few years ago, you know, we were kind of lost as an organization. And you know, sometimes when you're doing a project, you need to come from a place of purpose and mission. And if you don't have values baked into that, the people that you're working with, your team, your staff, even yourself cannot feel like to get up and feel energized, right? And so for us, this became like our mantra. We're stoked, right? And at any given moment, we can be channeling one of those core values, right? Any given moment, we could give kudos to DGI for bringing me out here, right? And talking to you. I can, you know, exhibit energy by, you know, having a full stomach and giving you my best right now, right? So, so those are sort of qualities that we bring out in our programs. And so I talked about action sports. It's self-expression. It's creative. I mean, I could, you know, you can kind of tell a skateboarder by the way they dress, or you could tell, you know, the way they walk, or their sneakers, or you can almost tell what kind of trick people like to do based off of their sneakers. It's a weird thing, but anyway, how we work is that we work seasonally. So we skateboard in the spring and the fall. We snowboard during the winter, and during the summertime we surf. We work with kids for all 4 years of school, and we do that because we believe that action sports is a long-term lifestyle type of activity. You don't get good at skateboarding by teaching a kid how to skateboard just for 6 weeks, 2 times a week. And so like with any street sport, like the more you do it, the better. The more you do it with more people, the better you become. The best thing about action sports, and especially like skateboarding, is depending if we're going out together, how I'm feeling that day, I can learn so much from you, and you can learn a lot from me. And we can skate all over the place, and I'll never feel like I'm being competitive with you. Because there's no winning or losing, right? There's no points. And it's all about what we bring to the table that particular day. We work with schools, we work with parks, we work with community-based organizations, and we like to work with a group of students that they don't normally, their normal traditional programming doesn't necessarily fit with them. So we tend to attract the kids that are creative. Maybe they like music, or they like to draw, they like art, and they're looking for a physical outlet to get their creativity out there. A lot of these kids kind of teeter on like doing well, they have potential, they're not living up to their potential, or schools call us and they tell us that we have a skateboarding problem. We have a group of kids that are not being engaged, they're skateboarders, and they're looking for a positive outlet. And so those are the types of kids that we work with. We rely on 2 types of people in order to run our programs. We have mentors who are volunteers who snowboard, skateboard, and surf with the kids on the weekends. And then we have coaches. So these are snowboarders, skateboarders, and surfers who we pay part-time to implement our programs in schools. So we have partnerships in schools. And so instead of kids going to the traditional after-school program, they attend Stoked for all 4 years of school. And then we do projects. We build skateboards. Kids learn how to make their own skateboard companies. We do internships. We have career advice. We bring in mentors to talk about their career. So we do a bunch of different things. We help them with college and their CV, and oftentimes the projects that they work on in our after-school program, they are able to put that as part of their portfolio for college. And because a lot of our students have relationships with mentors, and they know not just one mentor, but many mentors, they can use their mentors and their references and their recommendations to get into colleges, to get into for jobs and internships. So it's truly like building this community and actually, so, you know, if you got a job from somebody, because somebody recommended you, like it's a similar thing for us, but we're intentionally building this community to give kids the skills, the relationships, and the experiences to make them ready for life after high school. And the role of a mentor is to truly be like a positive role model. And we ask our mentors and we train them, we screen them, we do background checks on them, and we build this community of mentors so that they feel like they're part of something else. One thing that we're doing this year that we haven't done in the past is like what we do with our young people is what we're doing with our mentors. So we're creating a program for our mentors. So like these mentors have things, they have a 9-to-5 job, or they have a regular job, or they're you know, they have startups, or they're entrepreneurs, they're photographers, they're designers. But we do programs with them, we have events with them just so that we can build up a community, because if our mentors are successful, our students are successful. If our students are successful, our organizations are successful. I would say the same thing for you. If you are successfully able to build a community for mentors, then the kids in your community will be successful, and therefore your community will be successful, right? The other thing is, how we work is we have this thing called a Stoked circle. So it's kind of like our safe space where, like for instance, for our snowboard program, or even our surfing or our skateboard program, there's skateboarding, and then there's the opportunities to do different activities and workshops. So while we're driving up to the mountain on the bus, kids are learning how to set goals, right? So skateboarding, students learn communication skills, networking skills, positive social habits. For surfing, they learn values like respect, trust, and understanding of themselves and their community. And then snowboarding, kids learn how to set goals. And so while the mentors are doing the activities, the students are doing the activities. And then we bring them together so that it's actually an amazing feeling to hear students say, I want to graduate from school and I want to get this type of job. And then the mentor saying, I want to get this type of job and I want to go back to graduate school. So you have this big, trusting community where you feel safe and you seek the support to get your skills. We teach our mentors, you know, we don't use the word try, hopefully, maybe, if. Those are certain things that we don't say in our program because we don't want to put barriers in front of our kids. We don't say, why don't you try to pass math class? We don't say that. We say, pass math class, right? Why don't you, hopefully, maybe you can go snowboarding one day. We don't say that. We say, you will go snowboarding one day. And it's a little thing that we do for ourselves and for our community is that we are enablers. We don't put barriers. We don't put barriers and blocks like try in front of us. That's not too weird or esoteric, right? So I want to play you a video of our program. I'm Steve Larosiliere, and I'm the president and founder of Stoked. Stoked's mission is to promote personal development, academic achievement, and healthy living to underserved youth by using action sports culture. When I started Stoked, I wanted to take the young person that I was mentoring snowboarding. I wanted to show him that there was a world outside of his group home that he lived in. And I realized that there was probably a lot more kids that wanted to do the same thing. In addition to skateboarding, they do surfing and they do snowboarding. All of our kids love Kind, so we've been working with Kind for a while. And in this past year, we got a grant that we're able to sort of use to continue our work to serve more kids.
My name is Dustin. I am 28. I'm a skate mentor. The main value that I try to impart on the kids is determination. Just, you know, when you fall down off your skateboard or when you're, you know, trying to catch a wave and then you fall down, you just get back up.
I'm Charles Joseph and I'm 16 years old. And I come to the skate mentors. I help kids and they teach me as well.
Come on now, I know this might sound crazy. Come on now.
Charles is one of my favorite students because he does not give up.
The first half of the year, we had like pieces of wood and we just made new skateboards out of it. We actually ourselves painted the design on the boards. We had to go out to different skate shops and just like present our brand to the skate shops, have them buy our boards.
When they're done building a skateboard, they leave with a sense of completion. And you can get a lot of confidence from that. Because if you can start and finish just building a skateboard, you can start and finish school.
I have to wake up at 5 in the morning to take the bus and the train to go to school. But I just tell myself, hey, at the end of the day, you have to go to Stoked and just like chill with everyone. I'm like, all right, just wake up.
I feel like the story of low-income, underserved kids could end up in some really bad situations, but I'm looking to shift that. In order to change your life trajectory, it takes little things.
In a kind way, like I try to push him to be the best that he can be.
Stoked has changed my attitude towards life in a way that from middle school, I was like in a state where I just choose which personality to go with. And Stoked taught me that it's okay to just be the nice person.
So these are some of our supporters, press, and then that's it. So,
With the brief time we have, if you have questions about the Stoked program or parts of the program that you'd like to ask Steve.
How are you funded?
So we get foundation grants, grants from different large foundations and corporations and some sort of well-to-do and wealthy individuals. That's how we're funded. We don't get any government money. Some of our schools where they help subsidize the cost of our program to keep it free for the students. But for the most part, it's corporations, foundations, and individuals. And we also do special events in which we get corporate sponsors there. Yeah.
And how do you recruit these mentors?
So we partner with different. So a lot of them come to us because if you're a 30-year-old, designer at an ad agency and you grew up skateboarding and you want to give back, or like we're very easy to find, right? So we do skateboard mentoring and you'll most likely see us, or snowboard mentoring, you'll see us. Other than that, we partner with different groups, right? So there's like meetup.com has like a snowboard meetup and a skateboard meetup. So we partner with different groups, and then we use the brands that we work with to do outreach to get new mentors as well.
Would that be from their employees, for example?
Exactly, yeah.
So you have this strong brand now already, so people are coming to you.
Yeah. Well, luckily, we spent a lot of time recruiting in the beginning. Yeah.
Could you show the slide that captures some of the brands you work with? This is, So if you see the companies here, you recognize some of them maybe not. Toshiba, Nike, Mountain Dew, Vans. They have employees, and that's an interesting offer that he can make to the companies.
Yep.
That he's offering a platform for them to engage their employees in community service.
A social profile.
Also.
Yeah, so that last video was sponsored by Kind Snacks. It's like a healthy bar. So they ended up giving us money and they help raise awareness, and that video gets distributed, and then we're able to recruit more mentors as a result. Because either it's we get the employees, or we do a project in which a video gets produced, which we can then use to recruit more mentors. Yeah, I think somebody back there had it.
Yeah, I noticed you talk about screening. Do you take criminal youngsters from criminal background?
As the mentees or the mentors?
As part of the program, I say both as a mentee and a mentor.
So we, for the mentees, yeah. For the mentors, we haven't had that opportunity yet to engage them as mentors. And that's, I mean, I could talk a little bit more about that, is that like our program isn't designed for that in mind. But I've seen successful models where, you know, former gang members are now the mentors to kids to prevent them into, but that's not what we do.
Now, are you obliged then to work with social services departments if you encounter some people that have been, you say gang members or anything? What are your obligations in regards to that?
In regards to social service?
Yeah, as regards to information, I say, what are the kids' rights? I mean, if you discover that they're involved in some sort of criminal activity, drug sales or whatever.
Oh yeah. So the way we work, so we don't operate independently. We always partner with either a school or a community-based organization. And so for us, we're an additional advocate in the young person's life. And so if we do find out, then it's a sort of notification to, you know, the people that we have a partnership with, right? And so they're the ones that are most likely handling it. So because we don't have the social workers on staff. And so oftentimes too, I think a good successful organization doesn't go in alone. And so like you focus on, you know, partnering with somebody that does have like, you know, gang intervention specialist or a social worker in case that there's abuse in the house. We've had those things pop up in the past, and you know, our staff are trained to recognize those sorts of things, and so that's there's always like a chain of command. We always sort of report up because we don't operate on our own. So,
other questions?
Thank you for a very interesting presentation, very inspiring, I think. My question is, because I'm also managing a mentor program for young people who have been in foster care. And I'm thinking sometimes that the young people, they don't think it's so cool to have a mentor. Do you see this problem, or is it different in the US?
Yes, but I think part of my training that I've received and the training that I give is to and so this is precisely why I started my organization, is because I knew that if you tell a kid to be part of a mentoring program, they're gonna feel like that they're like this charity case, and that they're like, oh, be part of this program, it's gonna help your life. And so I knew that even though that the kid that I was mentoring, I think he wanted to be there, it was hard for me to tell, right? I knew that if we did something together, and for me that together was to go snowboarding, that I knew that we would be going through this process together. And it's like when you go traveling with somebody, you either love them or you hate them at the end of the trip, but either way you get to know them really, really well, right? And so I think by this traditional means of a mentoring program, if you still hold the ideals and the intentionality and you have the training, but I feel like you need to go through something together, so that the only way mentoring works is if there's trust. And if you don't have activities designed within your mentoring program to foster that trust very fast, then you have kids drop out of the program, and the mentors feel frustrated, and it'll be hard to retain them because the mentors are doing this on their own, right? And there's no, if there's nothing in it for them, they're not going to show up. They're just going to go off, working their job and then, getting some beer afterwards and spending money on the weekends, right? Like, that's, you're right? They'll just go on living life and not able to give back. But if you're able to intentionally build in activities within the journey of the mentoring program so that kids know what to expect and that you can bond them two together, you're gonna have kids that are just gonna say, oh my God, I want a mentor too, because the mentors are so cool, and this and this and this, and the mentors helped me out with this. Like, that's what's gonna happen. So.
Other questions? We're close to out of time, but I can see not all the other sessions are finished, so you have a chance if you have something you'd like to ask. Or I could share a question that was asked in the previous session. This is the second time this workshop was held. There was a question about the values of the action sports. And are those the same as other sport values? And I think it's an interesting perspective to see the values, or when you hear the values that he mentions about skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, those values are not necessarily unique to those sports. What is unique is the purpose of his organization and the target group that they're reaching out to. So within the traditional sports structure, you may find that they exist to promote and sustain their sport, whereas he's existing to make a difference in the lives of individuals using sport. So I think it could be an important distinction when you look at the landscape around you and you think, okay, where do we have gaps of participation and what are the barriers? As opposed to assuming you can invite them into existing structures, it could be there's another approach, and that is to have a purpose-specific initiative or project or organization.
Yeah.
And Steve, also in the last session, you gave a comment about how to identify the space to work in. And his suggestion was find an area where no one else is active.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big thing, and I had a discussion with someone afterwards. It's the more I almost wish that I became like more niche in the beginning, as opposed to sort of looking to work with all kids. And so, I gave an example. It's like, kids involved with juvenile justice, like juvenile delinquent surfing program, or, I told there was some young ladies earlier. It's like, I said, who's the biggest immigrant group in here? She was like, Somali. I was like, why don't you do a Somalian girl skateboard program in Copenhagen? Right? Like, how much more niche can you get, right? Because they come with a certain set of issues and problems, and if you guys identify and add data to that problem, whatever you're going to do is going to raise, and so you'll be able to see a measurable difference in there. And then the other thing too is that, like, you really want to be able to tell a story about what the programs that you guys are doing. So you can show a visual and a narrative from point A to point B. And for those that work in communities, you have an even bigger, you have a bigger opportunity because you have the scale. You have a lot of people. So that's attractive to corporations. That's that's it for other big businesses, for other, local governments. So if you can show that you are targeting a niche and you're solving a problem, and especially if you can add a dollar amount to that problem, like, okay, this problem is costing the government this amount of dollars, and my intervention is saving you this amount of dollars, then you have a win-win right there, because you're targeting a niche that nobody's filling, you're solving a problem for the government, and then you're showing a measurable impact. And you can tell a story. That's like everything. That's like the holy grail of youth programming, right? Cool.
Any other questions?
I'm available for if anybody's too shy to ask questions. I can talk afterwards.
Steve will be around for a bit afterwards if you you want to. One last, back end.
Yeah, well, just comment on what you're saying at the end. That in Denmark we're very observant about integration and inclusion, and if you designate a specific Somalians or Iraqis or whatever, you're not actually integrating them into the local sample or local network. So we're very much aware that if you take a specific group and you project them as being a problem, so we don't often support sort of labels like that here.
Sure. Well, you know, to come back to that, is that internally you could say this. Externally, you can project whatever you want. You know, so you could tell the story however you want, but internally, to get the resources to do the project and to show the measurable impact, you know, I do the same thing. You know, you don't want to put a spotlight on this specific population to show that they're a problem, but you can still do it.
Yeah, because you're only adding to their stigma if you do that.
Exactly. All right, cool. Thank you, guys. All right. Ta.